Tony Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Lou DiBella for the latest DiBella's Digest. And Lou, as always, I'm going to start by asking, how has your week been?
No comment, Danny. Let's talk boxing.
That's absolutely fine. One of the biggest things that's caught attention in the last week.
Special guest today.
She looks
special
so
guest
peaceful.
appearance by Dobelina. Yes.
She looks so peaceful.
She's sleeping on my. Yeah, the reason I look awkwardly situated is she's sleeping on my chest, and I don't want to disturb her. Okay, so thank you. Yeah, we have some big stuff. I guess that was quite a performance. I thought after he adjusted by Terence Crawford. It's interesting. These fights are like panning out very heavily, like I anticipated them to. I thought Kell Brook would come out with a charge because Bud is a slow starter, and I had given Brook the first 3 rounds, but then the second that guy adjusted, that fight was over. It was Crawford's a very, very, very good fighter, but a little bit untested, and that's, I guess, the source of a lot of the problems that he's having with his promoter,
Yeah, were you surprised? Not the fact they're having problems, that wasn't a great surprise, but the fact that both sides of this disagreement have been so vocal about it, so public.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that, actually. I think there was a lot of loyalty between them over the years. On one hand, I think Crawford and his people are all frustrated that he's not getting the mega fights. On the other hand, Arum's not wrong that he's paid this fucking guy a shitload of money. He's paid this guy a lot of money to fight pedestrian opposition, and he's treated him like a star, even though he hasn't been able to cross the avenues, to make deals with welterweights that are with PBC. But in terms of how Crawford has earned, and the number of people that have seen him fight, Top Rank's done pretty well by him. I was a little bit surprised that I think Arum. Look, you got to give Arum a little slack. The man's in his late fucking 80s, and he doesn't give a single fuck. But also when you're in your late 80s, you're just different, man. You're chippier and you don't give a fuck. So I cut him a little slack, but I was a little surprised. I think he went overboard. I think that Bud's also hitting that point in his career where those big fights have to happen, or he's going to be on the wrong end of his career. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think both of them have some points, but I do think that overall he's made a lot of money without taking significant risk. And from a standpoint of boxing as a business, Crawford's done pretty well.
Something they talked about publicly again, but something that seems to suggest that, or hint at a broader topic in boxing, is that Arum was comparing Crawford to some of his other fighters, Teofimo Lopez being one of them, and basically implying or even saying outright that Crawford doesn't do enough to promote himself and to put himself out there. And then a lot of people hit back on social media. I think Crawford's wife may have been one of them, saying, it's the promoter's job to promote the fights. Promotion is his realm. Where do you sit on that? How much responsibility should a fighter take to build his own brand and his own drawing power, revenue power?
I certainly think it's helpful if the fighter wants to do a lot. I think that Tevin Farmer was very well served. He's not a Bud Crawford in terms of magnitude, but just how he used social media and he used public opinion to get himself an opportunity as he was building himself back. I think guys that have been very heavily invested in social media, like Ryan Garcia, can really help their images and their earning power. But other guys just prefer to go home and hang out with their families and their kids. And Bud's one of those guys, and he's not situated in a big city. He's in Omaha,
Nebraska.
Nebraska, and there's a degree of truth to what Arum said, and a fighter can very much help himself by being active and self-promoting. But they're not wrong that the primary responsibility to promote is the promoters. Now, if the fighter says, I don't want to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, then that's on the fighter a little bit. No, not a little bit. That's on the fighter. If the promoter says, "Hey, I can offer you A, B, C, D, E, F, and G promotional opportunities," and the fighter says, "Nah, I really just want to hang out in wherever, and I'm not, I don't have the time," then it's on the fighter. If those promotional opportunities aren't presented to the fighter, it's a little bit different.
I would suggest that Errol Spence at this stage is a bigger star and a bigger drawing card than Terence Crawford, particularly on TV, maybe not so much in their home states. Crawford's a big draw in Omaha. But is that because he's just had those more high-profile fights, the better level of competition being with PBC?
Well, he also had more eyeballs. But then again, that's not quite fair because Crawford had eyeballs too. Crawford's fought a number of his fights on ESPN.
Yeah.
I don't think Crawford ever did an audience like the 6 million people that saw Errol Spence when he fought after the Olympics. But they both have gotten a very fair share of exposure. Spence is big in Texas. Dallas is a major market. Omaha's really not. That's not Bud's fault. But look, a fighter does himself a lot of good, and a fighter has a responsibility to try to make himself someone people care about. Fighters are entertainers. I've said that to you many times. Fighters are entertainers, and fighters have to realize that it's a subset, boxing and sports, of the entertainment industry. You could be a lesser fighter, but if more people care about you, you could be a star. And you could be a great fighter, and if no one cares about you, you're not a superstar. You might be pound for pound, but and you don't cross over to the casual fans or the general public. I'm going to guess probably, I don't know, in the boxing world, everyone that knows Spence knows Crawford, everyone. In the general population, maybe Spence is a little bit better known because of geography and, more fights with multi-millions of people. And the fact he's already done a pay-per-view that was successful.
So I just wanted to ask the next thing I was going to say. Are there any non-PBC welterweights that Crawford could have fought, in your view, over the past couple of years that would have increased his standing to any degree?
Not really, unless they would have been creative about reaching down or reaching up. They didn't do a lot of that. Part of the issue, frankly, was also some of the more attractive 54-pounders. 54 is also a dominant division for PBC. So it wasn't so easy to look up, and even looking down, could they have tried to push a Ramirez fight earlier? I don't know. The Ramirez would have liked that. Could they have sought out Josh Taylor with a big number? The problem was what economics was going to justify that big number. Unless they see now, but if they brought Crawford to Scotland, would that have been something attractive? But then you have a pandemic hit. So I guess the real answer is nothing would have been so easy for them,
What about Mikey? I mean, he's a free agent. I think he did his last fight with DAZN, but could he have been tempted perhaps after the Spence fight?
He might have been tempted, but Mikey, here's what Mikey is. Mikey is one of the best 30, 35-pounders I've ever seen in my life. Mikey's an excellent 40-pounder. And then take Mikey to 47, and you saw what Errol Spence, did with him. And is there any reason to think it would be different with Crawford? Yeah. My gut tells me no. I also think, Mikey made a lot of money for the Spence fight. But the old saying, Danny, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Unless someone was vastly overpaying Mikey, I don't see him having done it. And Mikey against Crawford, is that a big pay-per-view? No. So where was the money going to be to give incent Garcia to take a fight that I don't think would particularly interest him?
Maybe Adrian Broner?
Adrian Broner could have been something interesting, but also he's a PBC fighter. But yeah. Adrian Broner, it's not about competitiveness. It's about his ability to make attention, good or bad, and sell stuff. And the truth is, Broner has some sales power because part of it is that he's so colorful. He's a clown. He's a degenerate. I mean, there's loads of reasons. He's also, when he's on, a pretty good fighter, but he has some star power. But honestly, right now, from a competition standpoint, I think people would scoff on it, and B, Al Haymon's not going to let Bud Crawford beat up Adrian Broner when one of his guys could beat up Adrian Broner.
Yeah, it's a fair point. So let's look to the future then. I mean, apparently there's less than a year left on Bud's contract with Top Rank. I think it's October next year has been circulated as when that runs out. So there'll be one more fight, we think, under Top Rank next year. Will he? You
know what? You never can tell. It's all about relationships. When a contract ends, obviously people can go their separate ways, but it's all about relationships. And here's another aspect of it. Look, Haymon has a great advantage. If they want to do business with Bud, they're advantaged by working with. There's a dog walker about to walk past with a whole bunch of dogs.
Right.
So Topolino's understandably excited. Here, calm down, girl. Here's the thing, then. Most of the natural big fight opponents are with Haymon and PBC. So if those are the fights that Bud absolutely wants, then it's unlikely for me to see him staying with Top Rank. But it's also unlikely for me to see Bud agreeing to be on the short end of the stick with PBC fighters and not feeling like he's special and not making a shitload of money. And the reality is Bud is already making a lot of money. So, and if you believe Arum, if you take Arum at his word, he's not profiting on the Bud Crawford part of his business.
He says he's losing.
He's going to make it. Well, that's what he says. I don't believe any. That's what he says. Would he have an ESPN deal if he didn't have Crawford and Teofimo or Lomachenko? He probably wouldn't. So he might be losing money, but that doesn't really move me very much. If he's going to expect to go and fight the bigger fights for more money, so he's going to assess the economic offer that Haymon makes him. And if Haymon makes him a great economic offer and Haymon has all the natural opponents, he's likely to go to Haymon. However, nobody makes deals to lose money. So it remains to be seen what happens next October. I can't even think about next October. I mean, that's a full year, man. I mean, this last full year was 20 years. So I don't even know what the next year is going to be like. So, it remains to be seen. But I have to let her out or I'm going to lose. I'm going to get, and I don't think people want to hear the Topolino show right now. But anyway, guys, good talking to you, Danny, and I'll see you next week.
As always, Lou. All right, brilliant. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye, Topolino.
Take care. Bye-bye.